You know how the saying goes, a happy wife, happy life. But when that money gets to running low, what happens when a happy wife becomes a murderous one?
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. A podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. Y'all, first and foremost, my sincerest apologies on the delay in this week's episode. I know it's been like 2 weeks since you guys got an episode. Y'all was like messaging me, like, what's going on? Y'all was cussing me out. I'm like, wait a minute. Listen, sometimes life be lifing, okay? It was crazy, I know, but it's all been handled. I basically had everything stored and saved, and then the next thing I know, everything got deleted. But I promise you, you are going to get your episodes every week, okay? Now, with that being said, y'all know what it is. Let's go ahead and get into it. This week's infamous episode involves Alan Brown, the first victim, Albert Thomas, the second victim, Shanice Hunter, I guess you could say an involuntary accomplice, Brianna Hunter, Lorraine's daughter, and the infamous murderer herself, Lorraine Hunter. Lorraine Allison Hunter was born July 22nd, 1958, and grew up in Mississippi, the SIP, as I like to call it. She had met Albert in school, but they kind of went to live separate lives, and Lorraine had actually relocated to California. Now, there's not much on her childhood, but Lorraine was like this dope ass cook and, kind of like the Susie homemaker type. Everybody says she loved to cook and, was a really beautiful woman, but she was just kind of bad at picking men. And I mean, realistically, who's not, we as women, we don't necessarily make the best choices when we pick guys. I know damn well I haven't. So I empathize with her on that part because, sis, we done all, as women, we done all had at least one bad one. Okay. Like if you can sit there and say that you've never picked a bad man, baby, I need to speak with you because how? But anyway, so she had two sons that she struggled to raise, and supposedly she was really bad with money, like really bad with bills, and was always needing help. Now, she was a hopeless romantic and, she wanted to be taken care of. She believed that a man should court her and wine and dine his woman. And you know what? That's facts. Like, if you trying to get at me, you're going to have to court me, wine and dine me, show me, why you interested. Like, I get it. But the kind of men that she put herself around, they didn't really have that same mindset because it was more like, I'm a wine and dine these panties off of you. Like her kids' dads pretty much bailed and just left her to raise them on her own. And it was safe to say that she had her fair share of hardship. And then she met Alan Brown. Alan Brown was a truck driver from Mississippi. He was living in Los Angeles, and Lorraine, she had just fallen madly in love with him. And, Alan didn't care that she had two sons. He had a child from a prior relationship. She had two kids from, two prior situationships. So they made a life with each other and had a perfect little family. He took care of her and gave her the lifestyle and the stability that she wanted. And, Lorraine and Alan, they were rocking hard like for 10 years, but they had some bumps along the way. Alan was gone a lot and it started to take a toll on their marriage, especially since he was working like crazy He was a truck driver. And, Lorraine was doing nothing but complaining about him not making enough money. At one point, Lorraine and Alan had separated because Alan was fed up. Like he was telling his family he was tired of it and wanted to leave. Like he was like, "Yo, I'm getting real sick of this. All she do is complain. All she do is nag. She's spending money left and right. I'm working my ass off. I'm done." So they separated. Now, during their separation, Lorraine met another man and once again got pregnant. And on July 22nd, 1994, she gave birth to Brianna Lashanae Hunter. So now Lorraine has three kids that she's raising, and she's separated from Alan. She can't handle being out in them streets again, so she and Alan reconcile and work things out. I don't know, maybe she told him, baby, I'm gonna get it together. I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna help you out. I'm not trying to stress you. I'm sorry. I don't know what she told this man, but that man is a saint, because damn, you already taking care of your wife and her kids and your kid. And then when y'all separate, she go and get pregnant by another nigga. Now you taking care of that baby too? Boy, you a good one. But they get back together and things are good for a while. After a few years, Lorraine is back to her usual self. She's telling Alan, listen, this ain't enough. Yo, okay, side note, all I could think about when she said that was that movie Friday where Smokey tells his mama, this ain't enough. And she hit him with the make it enough. Yeah, I'm goofy, I know. But anyway, she's like, baby, this ain't enough. We got bills. You supposed to be taking care of me and my kids. You know I'm not trying to be out here working. You knew who I was when you married me. You promised me comfortability, nigga. She's steady complaining about how much money he's bringing home or the lack thereof and how they need more money. Well, one day in March of 1996, Alan and Lorraine decide to go to Inglewood, California. Shout out to Inglewood. Inglewood, always up to no good. Anyway, so they're visiting her niece. And when they leave on the way home, they're driving, and Lorraine hears something in the car. So she's like, babe, something's going on with the car. You might want to check that out. It just something don't sound right to me, and I'm a little nervous. So Alan's like, all right, let me see what's going on. Let me see what's happening. So he pulls over and he gets out and he pops the hood. He's looking around and he's trying to figure out what's going on, but suddenly someone runs up on him and shoots him in the back. Just bow. Lorraine gets out and she's screaming, help, help, somebody help, please. Oh my God, my husband, no. 911 is called and the ambulance shows up. Now, Alan is still alive and they take him to the hospital and they're asking him, they're asking, like, Alan, who did this? But he said he didn't see anything. He was just checking under the hood to see what was going on with the car. And after a few days in the hospital, Alan succumbs to his injuries and dies. The cops, they're investigating and trying to figure out what happened, but there's no leads. They're like, well, it was in Inglewood, so maybe it was just gang related. Maybe it was a robbery. The only one that was there besides Alan was Lorraine, and she didn't see anything because he had the hood up. Well, at least that's what she said. So they write it off as a robbery or gang related, and the case went cold, unsolved. Now, Lorraine, she's seemingly upset because, she just lost her husband and she's crying and trying to figure out how she's going to make it. But financially, she and her kids had nothing to worry about. See, Lorraine got a nice little financial blessing, shall we say, because she received around $312,000 from Alan's life insurance policy. Now, I'm assuming that she blew through that money because Lorraine and Brianna, they ended up moving in with her friend Natisha Brown. Now, Natisha's not related to Lorraine's husband, Alan. They just happen to have the same last name. But, her two sons, they were old enough and out the house, so she had Brianna to think about. They moved in with Natisha, so life was going good. Natisha said that Lorraine kept her weight in the house, or held her weight in the house rather. She would, keep the house clean and was good at sewing and baking and cooking. She made sure Brianna was good. And, although she wasn't working, she held her own. So while Lorraine is going through all of this, Albert is back in Mississippi living his life. Now, he had married his high school sweetheart, and they had a couple of kids together, a daughter named Katina and a son, Coagelin. While he was driving trucks, he was also a deacon at his childhood church, Chapel of the Cross. He was the superintendent of the Sunday school. So he's living this perfect life, but working as a factory worker and then later becoming a short haul truck driver, it eventually got to his family. He was always gone, and it kind of took a toll on his marriage. So after several years together with his wife, they decided to call it quits and they ended up getting a divorce. And that's how he fell into the trap, the lap of Lorraine Hunter. While she was at home visiting her father in Mississippi and helping to take care of him, she's out and about one day, and lo and behold, she bumps into Albert. They see each other, and he's like, "Damn, Lorraine, you looking good, girl. How you been?" And, she's like, "Oh, I'm good, down here visiting my dad." She's flirting with him and he's flirting with her. And he tells her about how he's recently divorced and everything. And of course, she tells him, "Well, yeah, my husband died a few years ago. So it's just been me and my daughter since the boys are grown and doing their own thing." And, the two strike up conversation and they ended up hooking up. Now, remember, Lorraine is living in California while Albert is still living in Mississippi. So, after some time that, they started talking and everything, Albert decides, you know what? I'm really feeling this girl and I really want a future with her. So, he decides that he's going to relocate from Mississippi all the way to California to be with his boo. Baby, whoo, she must have had that killer. Well, sorry, bad choice of words, but that thing must have been thangin' because damn, you had a dude move all the way across the country to be with you, and you managed to pull another truck driver. You managed to pull another dude that is willing to take care of you and your kids that he ain't make with you, but okay. So anyway, in 1999, he and Lorraine got married, and with Brianna, they started their beautiful family. Albert was a provider, so he wanted to make sure that he took good care of Lorraine and Brianna. He treated Brianna like she was his child. To him, there was no such thing as a stepdaughter. It was like, "This is my daughter. Brianna is my baby." Much like he did with his previous marriage, he got two jobs. He was a truck driver and he also worked as a clerk at an auto store. Lorraine, she got to live the dream of, being the stay at home mom and taking care of the house. And the house, oh, it was beautiful. Baby, Albert had them living in a $1 million home. Like, I know that phrase is used a lot, but the house was actually valued at over $1 million. But naturally, when you have an expensive house like that and you have a wife with expensive taste, you got to keep that shit up. So Albert, he was working like crazy, but he was proud because he knew that his wife and kid deserved it. He's taking care of them, he's taking care of his kids back home. He is being the stand up man that he knows God made him to be. Let's go, brothers. Let's go, brothers that take care of their families. I love it. Let's go. Brianna, she never wanted for anything. Albert took great care of her and spoiled her rotten. Shout out to all the daddy's girls out there, because isn't it awesome? They spent many years together, happy. They were living the good life. Albert was working and taking care of the bills while Lorraine was at home. Brianna was getting older, and everyone that saw them all thought the same thing, that, they were a genuinely happy family. Lorraine enjoyed showing off and everything, and Albert was the proud and quiet person. So they kind of, I guess, balanced each other out. He was always on time for work. He was very involved in Brianna's life. He was very dependable, very reliable. But he was also very tired of Lorraine's shit. As much as he loved providing for his wife and daughter and being that family man and that, financial stability, he was drained because for Lorraine, Albert's money and status was just not enough. She always wanted more. Deja vu. She wanted to show off. She wanted to do something that would make her feel like she was above everybody else. And much like Alan, this started to take a toll on Albert. He was getting fed up. Like it is literally rewinding the story all over again almost. He's getting fed up. He's trying to tell Lorraine, listen, this spending is getting out of hand. We can't keep living like this, baby. You are breaking my pockets. And Lorraine, she's telling him, I don't want to hear that shit. You knew exactly what it was when we got together. I told you that I didn't want to work and you were cool with that. We've been living like this for years and now all of a sudden it's a problem. Girl, if you don't get your ass up and get a job. But Albert was serious. He was done with Lorraine. He had started talking about leaving too, just like Alan. He told Lorraine, I'm done. He was tired of it. He couldn't take it anymore. He was tired of her constantly complaining that what he was doing wasn't enough. And I don't blame him because, bitch, I'm giving you everything and it's not enough. Like, you're still asking for more, you ungrateful heifer. So, while he's ready to call it quits, Lorraine, she couldn't afford to lose Albert. She knew what it was like taking care of her daughter on her own, and she didn't want that. So she went to her daughter and told her, baby, your daddy is trying to leave us, and I can't have that. So we going to have to do what we got to do. Brianna is 15 years old. She's asking her mama, what you mean we got to do what we got to do? And Lorraine breaks it down for her. And she tells her, listen, child, this man gonna leave us with nothing. So we gotta figure out how to kill his ass. And Brianna is just like shocked. Why we gotta kill him? That's my daddy. But Lorraine is adamant. She's like, girl, didn't you just hear me say that your daddy gonna leave us with nothing? I worked hard to get him and maintain the lifestyle that we are both comfortable with. I'm not trying to be working like some basic bitch. I'm a kept woman. Brianna, she's torn because she loves Albert. He's the perfect father. He's the only father she's ever had. But this is her mom. So Lorraine starts plotting and scheming on how she's going to kill her husband. And she went back to an oldie but a goodie. She thought, all right, I'm going to shoot his ass. So she goes and steals a gun from a church member. Okay, first of all, there's so much to unpack right there. Like, not that you stealing a weapon from your church member, so you already committing one sin of stealing so that you can go and commit another sin of murder. Mm. Jesus Devante Christ, what is the world coming to? Anyway, she steals a gun from her church member and decides to shoot Albert. Now, her plan was to kill him and collect the insurance money, which was easy because Albert had these insurance policies through his job. And, being a trucker, you got to have an insurance policy because anything can happen when you're out on the road. And at least this way, you know that you're taken care of. So Lorraine made sure that he had the policies through his job that was around $225,000. And then on top of that, she took out additional policies on him. One was for $750,000 and the other was a $10,000 policy. Now, at one point, there was a third policy, but it lapsed before Albert was killed. Okay, so here's the thing. Outside of the policies that he had from work, Albert had no clue that she had these other policies on him because Lorraine had gone to Brianna and told her, hey, baby, I'm going to need you to forge your daddy's signatures on these policies. And Brianna did it. 3 different insurance policies she put her father's signature on. Now, during all of this, Brianna's still in high school, a teenager going to the school games and dances. Now, her cousin Shanice is coming over and they're hanging out all the time. And one day, Shanice comes over and she sees Brianna holding a gun. But Lorraine plays it off quick and she's just like, Brianna, girl, go put that damn gun up. And she gets rid of Shanice and it's like, well, baby, today really ain't a good day for Brianna to be hanging out. Why don't you just, come back another time? So Shanice leaves and she doesn't question anything. And Lorraine, she turns around and gets on Brianna like, you need to toughen up. We got to get this done. Stop punking out on me. Like, tough up. The whole time, Lorraine is just waiting for the perfect opportunity. There were a few times that she actually did have the opportunity. See, Albert would take these walks, and she thought, okay, well, I can just kill him while he's walking. But every time she wanted to, it was too many witnesses. And then one day she was outside of his job and she thought, okay, I could shoot him here. But once again, too many witnesses. It wasn't until November 3rd, 2009, that the opportunity finally presented itself. Lorraine goes to Brianna's room and whispers, it's time. Tell your daddy that you want to go for a walk. Now, Brianna's being obedient and she does what she's asked. And, she tells her dad, hey, dad, you want to go for a walk around the neighborhood? It's getting dark and it's cooler outside. So he's like, all right, great, we can do that. So they get ready to go for their walk. He gets his stuff together, and all three of them go for a nice family walk. Now, at this point, they're no longer living in their $1 million home. They're actually living in an apartment complex, the same apartment complex where Shanice lives, which is probably why Shanice was over there all the time. I'm just trying to figure out how the hell y'all went from $1 million home to an apartment complex. Like, how you fuck off $1 million house where you not paying the bill? Like, I really wish they had gone more in depth on that because I'm like, damn, was she not paying the bills? Was she not paying the mortgage? How you fuck off $1 million home and end up living in an apartment complex? If you gonna fuck off your money, that's one thing. But damn, don't lose your house. Like, pay the bills so you can at least keep up the facade that you got it like that. Like, damn, your spending habits had to have been crazy. Anyway, Lorraine, Brianna, and Albert are walking through the neighborhood, and Albert wants to go to his rig, which is parked close by, so that he can give Brianna a little gift that he got for her. They start walking towards the truck, which was parked further away from the apartment complex. So they're walking, and he's like, Brianna, baby, I got this sweatshirt that I want to give you that I bought for you. They get inside the truck, and Albert goes into the rear sleeper of the truck to get Brianna the sweatshirt. And Lorraine is like, all right, this is my perfect opportunity. She and Brianna were still in the front, so she pulls out the 38 caliber handgun that she stole from her church member and she takes aim. Pop, 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 pop. She fires off 4 shots, hitting Albert twice in the back of the head and then twice in the back. Now, he's in the kneeling position when he's shot and he dies instantly. After she shoots her husband, they have her niece Shanice come pick them up and they go back home. They go back and act like everything is normal. The next morning, Lorraine continues her plan and she calls Albert's job and begins her performance. She's talking to his boss and she says, well, have you seen my husband? I haven't heard from him and I'm starting to get a little worried. And Albert's boss, he knows that Albert is reliable and dependable. So he tells Lorraine that he'll look into it, but, that everything should be fine. So he hangs up and he looks up the tracker that's on Albert's truck. And he sees that the truck hasn't moved. The truck's GPS showed it was in Moreno Valley, California, where he lived. So he sent Albert's coworker, Richard Segrist, to see what was wrong. Apparently, Albert tended to leave early mornings sometimes, so that wasn't really out of the ordinary. But when his boss looked and saw that the truck hadn't been moved and that he had missed a delivery, that was the odd thing that made him say, all right, let me get somebody over there. So Richard gets over there and he sees that the truck is there and that it hadn't been started. And he's just got like this weird, eerie feeling. He gets up in the truck and, goes inside and he's calling Albert's name. And he looks and he sees that the cash box is there. So he's like, all right, he got to be around here somewhere. And then he looks into the sleeper of the truck and he sees Albert. So he's calling his name thinking, okay, well, maybe he's just like in a deep sleep or something. And he's like, Albert, Albert. He's calling Albert's name over and over, but the more that he calls his name and the closer that he gets, he realizes, okay, this dude ain't moving. He looks and he looks and he sees that Albert's been shot. Immediately, he calls 911. They get out there and they scope the scene and they see that Albert has been shot 4 times, twice in the back of the head and twice in the back, execution style. And the medical examiner actually later confirmed the same thing that the police see. They see the position that Albert is in and can tell that it was like a sneak attack, like he never saw it coming. Now, the question on everyone's mind is who did it? Who could do something like this to Albert? Naturally, the first thing they think about is, well, this must have been a robbery. But then they see that cash box that's still full of cash. So they're like, nah, that ain't it. And they start talking to his coworker, Richard, and he's telling them, well, Albert has never been late with a delivery. He's always on his A game. Somebody caught him off guard. The cops find out that, his wife and kid live not too far from there. So Detective Ken Patterson decided to go to Albert's house to break the news to his family. They get to the apartment complex and they knock on Lorraine's door and she answers, looking like confused, like, how can I help you? And Detective Patterson, he breaks the news to her and he's like, ma'am, I'm so sorry to have to tell you this, but your husband was found murdered in the back of his truck. And now it's time for Lorraine's performance once again. And she's just so distraught. She's crying and she's like, no, not my husband, not the love of my life. Why did they kill him? Who did this? And the cops, they're like, we don't know. That's what we're trying to find out. And they're asking her questions about Albert's routine and things that may have, been an issue, if he had any enemies. And she tells the cops, well, I don't know who would want to do this. We've had a great life together. Albert gets up and he works hard every day to take care of his family. Oh God, my husband is gone. Why is this happening? So, they ask her, well, Lorraine, why did you call his boss this morning? And she's like, well, if he leaves early in the morning, I still hear from him, but I didn't hear anything, so that's why I called. And, I guess that makes sense to them. Plus, Lorraine is just distraught and crying and upset and giving these waterworks. She's boohooing everywhere. And, she's like, oh my God, I've got to tell my daughter that her daddy is dead. So the police, they offer their condolences and, they promise to investigate the matter. After the police leave that very same day, Lorraine goes and calls Albert's boss, Don Moore, again. And this time, she asks him about the insurance policies that Albert had through his job. And she's telling him, I got to get the ball rolling with his funeral arrangements. And his boss is thinking, well, this is kind of an odd thing to ask considering he was just found a few hours ago. But he starts looking for her. See, Albert had a policy with his job that was worth $225,000, but it doubled if he was murdered. Okay. While Lorraine is busy trying to get the insurance money, the cops are doing their investigation to try to figure out what happened. They're talking to Albert's family back home and his friends, and Albert's sister Tina is pretty much on it from jump. She's telling them, y'all need to look into Lorraine. This ain't her first rodeo with losing a husband. Her other husband was shot and killed years ago in Inglewood, California, and they never found the killer. And the detectives, they're like, oh, really? Well, this is some interesting news. So they start doing some digging and they find out that Lorraine's husband, Alan, in fact, did get killed in Inglewood and that his killer was never captured. Albert was buried November 14th, 2009, at his home church, Chapel of the Cross, in Nidda with the Reverend Elijah Eason, pastor, officiating. But the detectives, they still have this little bit of information that Albert's sister gave them. They decide that they want to visit Lorraine again and ask her about her and Albert's relationship and her previous relationship with Alan, especially since they see that she collected over 300 grand in insurance money. But before they do that, Albert's boss calls the detectives and he tells them, the strangest thing happened. The day of Albert's murder, Lorraine was calling talking about his life insurance policy. And I don't know that. That to me it was a little strange. The fact that she was calling about life insurance so quickly just stunned me. I mean, personally myself, that's the last thing I'm thinking about. That was all the cops needed to hear. They go back to Lorraine's and they ask her more specific questions about her and Albert's relationship and their finances. And Detective Patterson's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to ask the question that we all thinking. Did you know Albert had these insurance policies? But Lorraine is playing it cool. She's just like dumb to everything. I, I didn't know anything about his insurance policies. I mean, I, I don't handle that kind of stuff. If he did have them, it's because of his job. Like, she's playing the role, y'all. And the detectives know she lying. And they're also listening to what Albert's sister had to say about him being with a black widow. They knew what was up. Detective Patterson was like, I think this bitch killed her first husband, Alan, and now Albert's dead. Yeah, this ain't making no sense. But the cops didn't have any real solid proof. They could only go, off a hunch. But then they find out about the other two policies that Lorraine had and how she had gotten over $1 million in life insurance. So at this point, all right, you know what? Let's bring her ass back in. So they go back and they go to see her, and Lorraine once again does her Oscar winning performance. They present everything to her, and she's just shocked and surprised that, anyone would think such a thing of her. I can't believe y'all would accuse me of something like that. I did not kill my husband. I loved Albert. He was my everything. But they ain't phased. They like, well, why did you tell us you didn't know anything about a life insurance policy? But we know for a fact that you called his boss the day he died and asked about it. Oh, but Lorraine was prepared, baby. She said, well, I, I was just so flustered that day. I don't recall saying that. It was so much going on. I mean, after all, my husband was killed, so I may have misspoke, but just because I called his boss about a life insurance policy doesn't mean that I had him killed. Uh yeah, bitch, that's exactly what it means. So they ask her, well, do you think you could come down to the station and do a lie detector test maybe to prove it? And she agrees to it. If that's what it takes for you all to know and to stop accusing me, then fine, I'll do that. Now, do y'all really think that she went down there to take that lie detector test? Hell no. The next day comes and Lorraine is scheduled to go to the police precinct to take the test, but she is nowhere to be found. The police are calling, trying to figure out where she is, but Homegirl turned into Casper, okay? Next thing you know, cops get a letter from an attorney. Lorraine went and got an attorney, put him on retainer, and they hit them cops up quick and was like, yo, don't hit up our client no more. Leave her alone. She will not be coming in for any type of testing. So, of course, the cops are looking at you like, oh, yeah, you damn sure guilty. Now they just got to get the proof to, solidify it because all of a sudden, when you get asked about killing your husband for his life insurance money, you turn around and get an attorney because they want you to take a lie detector test. And I mean, them lie detector tests are pretty faulty anyway, so I can understand that to an extent. But yeah, you just looking hella guilty, sis. So Like my grandmama used to say, baby, something in the water ain't clean. And Lorraine's ass was dirty. So the cops is doing everything that they can to try to link this shit to Lorraine, but again, they don't have that solid proof that they need. Lorraine and Brianna, they're continuing to live their lives. Brianna's actually really trying to hold it together. Like a year after Albert died, she posted a status on Facebook that said, "Rest in peace, Dad, September 20th, 1953 to November 4th, 2009. I miss you so much. You just don't know what struggles I've gone through in the past year. I wish you were here with me. I love you so very much and I miss you even more." That struggle, we all know what that is. That struggle is knowing what her mama did and having to live with that. But then on December 10th of 2010, Brianna posts another post on Facebook and it says, "I swear every night something weird happens in my room. My radio keeps turning on and off by itself. Ah, this is creepy. Laugh out loud. Wonder why. Radio keeps turning on and off, huh? Could it be your daddy haunting you? I mean, he know what your mama did. I'd be watching my back around my mama. Y'all, I'm sorry, but I would be afraid to be around my mama because if you can kill your own husband in front of me, ain't no telling what you could do to me. And that's only confirmed by another post that Brianna made a few months later on May 15th, 2011. She posts, "So what is the true meaning of family? Because my family really don't demonstrate it. As far as I'm concerned, I have no family on me. This ish is too crazy, and I'm done with everything and everyone." There were so many posts that were like that she made that showed how unhappy she was. Like she talked about how she missed having her own room, how she didn't like sharing a bed, how her mother had an attitude all the time. But she managed to graduate from high school and she started at ITT Technical Institute. Lorraine at the time, God only knows what she was doing. She was probably hunting down husband number three for all I know. And apparently, she really was bad with money because if you got $300,000 from your first husband's life insurance policy and you blew through that, I could just imagine what she was doing with this $1 million that she got from Albert's insurance policy. Like, stretch that shit out. Make that shit like realistically, you could have stretched it out with Alan, and not have blown it so fast and you would have been okay. But I mean, your ass would have had to get up and get a job. But that's not where her head was at. And I'm just like, okay, now you got your daughter on Facebook talking about sharing a bed and living where she don't want to be. What the hell did you do with all that money, child? But again, they're living their lives like nothing ever happened. And much like Alan's case, Albert's murder went cold for a little bit. This is where that whole "what you do in the dark will come to the light" aspect kicks in because in October of 2011, Lorraine's niece, Shanice Hunter, the one that picked them up the night that Lorraine shot her husband, the one that came in the house and saw Brianna holding the gun, the one that, she was so quick to try to shoo away, well, she gets arrested. Shanice Hunter is arrested for shoplifting and they take her in and they're letting her know like we about to lock your black ass up. And she's like, so I know what I did was fucked up, but I got something that y'all may want to hear. And I promise you, it's way bigger than some little fuck ass shoplifting. And the cops ain't really trying to hear it until she tells them, "I know who shot and killed Albert Thomas." Now, this has their attention. So they ask her to explain, and she says, "My Aunt Lorraine did it. She shot and killed her husband." And of course, the cops is like, "Well, yeah, we know that, but we need some proof. So what you got? What kind of proof you got?" And she's like, I'm the one that picked them up from the night that she shot him. I picked them up from the truck." Baby, that was all the cops needed. They was like, "All right, fuck them little shoplifting charges." They told Shanice, "Listen, we gonna use you. If you can testify against your auntie, then we gonna drop these charges all together." And Shanice agreed. Now, this is where I start to think,
No, you done fucked up, right? No. You know you done fucked up, right?
Okay, if you gonna kill your husband, don't have accomplices. It's bad enough that you got your daughter involved, but you enlisted the help of your niece to come and pick y'all asses up from the crime scene. Like, you kicked her out the house when she came over and saw Brianna holding the gun, but yet you said, you know what? I'm gonna have my niece come pick us up after I kill my husband. Girl, what the fuck is wrong with you? You don't do that. Was the dumbest thing she could have done. The cops got Shanice to testify against Lorraine, and Shanice tells them everything. Honey, she's singing like Victoria Monet at the Grammys. She's like, yeah, Lorraine and Brianna were talking. I was over the crib one day and I heard Lorraine telling Brianna that they needed to do it because Albert was going to leave and he was going to leave them with nothing. Okay, let me say this. With how everyone has talked about Albert and the type of man that he was, I don't think he would have just left Brianna with nothing. Now, do I think he would have left Lorraine with nothing because she was a whole grown ass woman that was capable of taking care of herself and just chose not to? Abso-damn-lutely. But Brianna was innocent. I don't see him just, leaving her flat, high and dry. That just didn't seem like Albert's character. Anyway, and Brianna, she's just loyal to a bitch that's ruthless. Anyway, back to the case. So, Shanice is telling the cops everything, and they're like, all right, we got what we need now to lock her ass up. So they go and they bring Lorraine and Brianna into the station for questioning. And, they have them separated. And of course, Lorraine's like, well, my attorney said y'all can't contact me. And he's like, yeah, fuck your attorney because now we got some proof. So Brianna is 17 at this point. They're separated, they're asking her questions about her mom, and she may not necessarily like her mama all the time, but she was holding her mama down. She was like, I'm not gonna roll on my mama. I don't know what you're talking about. But at the same time, they're at Lorraine's neck telling her, we about to lock both you and your daughter up. We know you did it. We got a witness that said you killed your husband. Your own niece was there, that you enlisted for help. They pushing on her ass hard and pressing her to confess. And they're telling her, you can still come out of this somewhat okay. Just take the fall for it so that way Brianna don't get caught up in it. Baby, if fuck them kids was a person, it was Lorraine. She didn't give a fuck that her daughter was caught up in her shit. Not one little bit. She didn't give a damn that Brianna's ass was going to go to prison along with her. She looked them cops in the face and said, I don't know what the fuck you talking about. So, the cops are sitting back like, damn, this bitch is ruthless. So they did what they had to do. October of 2011, police arrested and charged both Lorraine and Brianna with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder of Albert Thomas. They were each held on a $1 million bond. Now, you would think that with her actually being arrested and charged, that Lorraine would say, okay, fuck it, I'm caught. I got to figure out a game plan. I got to get this shit right. And she did, somewhat. She and Brianna were in the same jail. However, again, they had them separated, but they were allowed to communicate with each other, via writing. So Lorraine is writing her these letters and she's telling Brianna, baby, you can't say nothing to the cops, okay? You can't tell on me. You can't tell on your mama. You got to just be quiet, all right? I'm going to handle this. I got it. Oh, but remember, you was just in the investigation room basically saying, fuck Brianna. Now you need her? Child, please. She's manipulating Brianna, telling her, you can't tell these cops anything. I love you. You're my daughter. Please don't say anything. And while she's doing that, the cops are getting Shanice ready to testify against her auntie in court. But Lorraine had one more little trick up her sleeve. Lorraine wasn't feeling the thought of her niece testifying against her. Like, I can't believe my own blood is about to snitch on me. So what does Lorraine do? Instead of apologizing to Shanice for involving her or even telling the cops, hey, you know what? I'm going to just own up to it. You ain't got to get Shanice involved. Oh, baby, Lorraine was going to go out swinging. She decided, I'm going to kill Shanice. That way she can't testify against me and they won't have anything on me. And I'm thinking, why? What was the reason?
And what was the reason?
And I know she thinking that the reason is, well, if I get rid of her, she can't testify. But Lorraine clearly was not using her brain because if something happens to Shanice, of course the cops are going to come looking at you, dummy. You got two bodies on you already. You got two husbands that are dead. You don't think that they won't connect Shanice's murder to you if something were to happen to her? But I guess Lorraine wasn't thinking about that. She's chatting it up with her cellmate and tells her, hey, I need your help with something. I need to get a hitman to kill my niece. And her cellmate is like, all right, I got you. No, she don't. These jailhouse bitches and niggas be lying their asses off in jail and snitching so damn fast. Her cellmate went straight to the guards and told them exactly what Lorraine had planned. And they was like, all right, bet. That's something else we can charge our ass with. Watch how we play this shit. Y'all, they got a cop to go undercover to pretend that he was a hitman. And Lorraine is all too excited. She calling and, she's having conversations with this quote unquote hitman. And she's like, listen, I got a niece. Her name is Shanice. She's trying to testify against me in court. I need to beat these murder charges. So I'm going to pay you if you kill her for me. Okay, remember, y'all, calls in the jails are recorded. And not only that, the undercover agents are recording their calls as well because, yeah, they're using this as evidence against her. Like, why are you telling your cellmate that you need a hitman to kill your niece? If anything, just say, hey, I need a hitman. Don't tell them who the fuck you need it for, stupid, because that's how your ass get caught up in this situation. So Shanice already knew that her aunt was trying to have her killed because the cops was like, listen, your auntie is on some crazy shit. She out here trying to get you killed so that you don't testify. And, Lorraine, she calling her family and she's being all sweet and stuff. And she's like, oh my gosh, I miss y'all so much. How are y'all? How's it going? I love y'all so much. Thank y'all for supporting me through all of this. I swear I'm innocent. I'm so sorry that, y'all are having to go through this. I was wondering maybe if y'all could, send me some pictures of everybody because I think it'll really help me get through these dark days, to look on my wall and see pictures of you and my baby Shanice and everybody. It'll really help me to see my family. Y'all, this bitch needs an Academy Award. Like, because she was all into it. And I'm just curious as to why her family would even consider having a conversation with this girl because, bitch, you got my daughter caught up in your shit. Like, you had my daughter come pick you up after you murdered your husband. Now you got my baby up here having to testify against your ass. Like, I really kind of wonder why they were in communication at all because but you do that to one of my kids it's it's on every time I see you, like it's up, what's good, like come outside because I'm gonna fuck you up. But anyway, Lorraine gets all this information and she tells the hitman, I got everything, that bitch about to be dead. Them cops was like, gotcha, bitch. She finds out that the person that she was talking to the entire time about offing her niece was an undercover cop. And he got everything on tape. They got all these recordings of her talking about how she wants her niece dead and everything. So she is beyond fucked at this point. She's like, foiled again. Like, I'm weak. Now, at this point, it's time for her to go to trial. And now, not only does she have to worry about murder charges, but now she got the conspiracy to commit murder because she tried to get her niece killed. And on top of that, Shanice is still testifying against her. Then, what really puts the icing on the cake is Brianna's finally speaking up, and she's like, well, it's clear that my mama only looking out for herself. She's shocked when she hears about her own mama was trying to kill her cousin. So she says, you know what? Fuck this. I still got a chance. And she tells the police, all right, I'll go ahead and testify against my mom. Brianna confessed to helping her mother fill out at least 3 life insurance applications in Albert's name, which designated Lorraine as the beneficiary, and witnessed her mother forge her stepfather's signature. And, I really applaud Brianna's courage because that is like some true strength right there to go against your mama, the person that you've been loyal to this whole time, the person that has shown you time and time again that they only give a fuck about themselves. Like, never really, looked out for you in this entire process and even brought you in the shit under the guise of y'all were going to be struggling. Like, if Lorraine really wanted to kill Albert, she could have done that shit without her daughter being there. If she really wanted to kill Albert and needed Brianna to say, hey, let's take a walk, okay, why not have Brianna go back to the house or something once you do that part? Or something other than have her standing there or sitting there while you shoot this man, because your daughter heard those gunshots. You know, her daughter heard her kill the only man that was like a father to her. Because remember, Lorraine's bitch ass, sucks at picking baby daddies that ain't around and don't do shit. And now her kids are fatherless children. And I'm like, you could have easily handled this differently where you didn't involve your daughter and she wouldn't be sitting in an orange jumpsuit in a courtroom. Even though they were arrested and charged in October of 2011, all of this stuff that was going on took time. They had to collect evidence and basically watch Lorraine dig a hole for herself. So they go to trial in August of 2017, and now Lorraine's got 2 strong individuals testifying against her. Deputy District Attorney Will Robinson theorized that during the penalty trial, I can never say that word, I'm sorry, theorized during the penalty trial that she was a sociopath with blood on her hands when she married Albert. Facts. When they asked Brianna why she was testifying, she said, I don't want to be up here testifying against my mom, but it's the right thing to do after what happened. She said that we needed the money, and at first I didn't know what she meant, but later on it became clear. She needed it to maintain her lifestyle. The prosecution asked her why she went along with her mother's plan, and she told them, she was like, I did what my mama told me to do. She said we needed to get rid of him. I mean, I felt hurt and confused. He was the only father figure I knew, but I never questioned her because she was my mom and I was loyal to her first. The trial lasted a few months and the jury was dismissed to deliberate, but it didn't take that long. Brianna and Shanice were testifying against her, giving explicit detail as to what happened. And then, you had those recordings of her soliciting a hitman. So it was a wrap. The jury came back 3 hours later with a guilty verdict on the charges of first-degree murder. Now, along with first-degree murder, jurors found true special circumstance allegations of lying in wait and killing for financial gain, which basically means like, okay, you this was premeditated, you thought this out because you knew you could get money off of it. So she had to deal with that too. On December 8th, 2017, Riverside County Superior Court Judge Mac Fisher read the verdict and sentenced Lorraine Hunter to death. In exchange for her testimony, Brianna was found guilty on 3 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of voluntary manslaughter. She was then sentenced a few days later and received 18 years and 9 months in state prison. They were both taken to the Central California Women's Facility, and Lorraine was placed on death row awaiting her execution date. But in March of 2019, Lorraine caught a break because California Governor Gavin Newsom issued a moratorium on capital punishment, suspending executions in the state for the time being. Lorraine is now 64 and incarcerated at Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla, California, the same penitentiary as her daughter. She's kicking it, in prison and enjoying letters from different people. She actually has a profile on meetinmate.com where she says, hello, I'm a bored lady looking for someone to help energize and brighten my days and bring a bit of laughter and good conversation into my life. I have a good education, a BS in business, and associates in culinary arts. I love cooking, even in here. I have a passion for most music and enjoy dancing and animals, especially horses and horseback riding. Um, bitch, what horses are you riding? You're in prison. She, she really said, I love dancing and animals, especially horses and horseback riding. Girl, what are you riding? Your cellmate? Anyway, so she continues and says, but nothing beats being at the beach and on the ocean. Okay, she is the Lulu. She says, I love and enjoy sports. I hope you'll write. I look forward to hearing from you. And she put that she was open to receiving letters from both men and women. But this chick is crazy. Anyway, Brianna is now 30 years old and in the Custody to Community Transitional Reentry Program in Stockton. Now, she's here now since she's eligible for parole in June of 2026. The Custody to Community Transitional Reentry Program allows eligible female individuals with serious and violent crimes, as well as non serious committed crimes, to state prison to serve their sentence in the community as designated by the department instead of them, being confined in state prison, but it's at the discretion of the secretary. The program provides a range of rehabilitative services that assist with alcohol and drug recovery, employment, education, housing, family reunification, and social support. So basically, it's the same thing of like being in prison, but not being in prison. Like 1 day of participation counts as 1 day of incarceration in the state prison. And the participants in the program are eligible to receive any sentence reductions that they would have received while they were doing their stay in state prison. They can be returned to the state prison at any time, though, without any reason, any cause, any notice. So the females that participate or volunteer for the reentry program, they get placed into the program with a minimum of 45 days and a maximum of 32 months prior to their release date. And, so with Shanice's case, with her being eligible for parole in June of 2026, that's good for her that she's in the program because they're transitioning her back into society. Shanice, well, unfortunately, I couldn't find anything else on her after this whole trial. I'm hoping that she got it together and, didn't get into any more trouble after this. Like, this would definitely be an eye opener for me. Last time I saw anything on her, she was a student at ITT Tech in San Diego. But, hopefully she's living her best life, unlike Lorraine. That is all for this week's episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. Be sure to follow the show on the following Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast. And that's a number one, by the way, not spelled out. And you can leave a review there. On X, it's Infamous One Pod, again, number one, where you can also leave a review. On Facebook, you can send a friend request to the Infamous Ones, or you can join the private discussion group, the Infamous Ones discussion group. You will need to answer the questions to get in, people. You don't answer the questions, you don't get in. It's that simple. I don't care if we cool or not, but you can leave a review there as well. The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and so on and so on. So leave a review, y'all. It only takes a few seconds. Thank you for those that have left reviews. They're slowly but surely starting to come in. And speaking of reviews, I have a few here to read. One comes from Spotify by the name of Ms. Busybody, and it says, First timer and I'm hooked. Love the delivery of this episode. I was cackling and talking to y'all like I was on the phone with a friend. Well, hey, friend, it's only one person. It's just me, okay? But I appreciate it, boo. Tell your friends to listen too, okay? Got another review here from the private Facebook group, and it's from Lernia. Sorry if I said that wrong. And it says, I just started listening after work today, and I'm on my third episode. I learned to not listen when I'm out in public because the Audible had me seriously standing in the middle of Kroger's. Laugh out loud. Y'all, I am so weak. Like, I be doing that too. Be like, wait, what the fuck? And nobody knows what I'm talking about. So I get it. I love the fact that these reviews are starting to pour in. Y'all keep sharing and leaving the reviews. If you have a case you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, or you want to leave a review there as well, send an email to infamous1pod. That's INFAMOUSONE pod@gmail.com. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see y'all next week with a new episode. Oh, and by the way, did I mention share these episodes, leave the reviews? Okay, I'm out for real this time. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.